I first met Terry probably in the early 90s, and I used to go into a small record shop down in Great Victoria Street because he had one smaller one again in the same street prior to that. And I used to go in, and we both used to weigh each other up but never speak. And it was about 6 months after that, through a painter friend of mine, an excellent painter, Jack Pakenham. He had been to an exhibition and he broke the ice with me, but we still hadn't become real friends at that time. Then one night he seen me, because of the difficulty, the type of art I'm making, sometimes I can be quite isolated, that I met him in a sort of hotel bar in Belfast, and he just put out his hand of friendship with me and said, "You should never be standing on your own. You're a passionate man, you shouldn't be on your own." And from that time the friendship started, and many a night I've come from studios when I've been making the paintings really exhausted, called into the shop, which was open late, and Terry would be there on his own, make me a cup of coffee, maybe pop something, a wee bit of brandy in it to pep it up on a cold night. And he used to love watching me on the closed circuit television. He used to let me play all the music I liked, so this was unique. I could just totally indulge, and Terry just watched me sort of unwinding as a person. And also we had a lot of this is what people don't realise about Terry. He's a very intelligent, deep man, and some of the things that went into the paintings were coming from dialogues that we had. And I'd always tell him to come round occasionally and see what I was doing. And I've always tried to encourage him, and I think it's great that he's now taking a higher profile again. Typical when we went to Sweden, um, he was going through a rough period because he had just become a father and getting over all of that. But he, we were walking down the street near the end of the time in Sweden, and it was a record shop where he used to sell his records. Or the punk movement was very big in Stockholm during that period, and he went into the thing, and the guy says to me, "See that man smoking a cigarette, tell him to leave." So Terry walked out, and I says to him, "But that's Terry." He says, "Oh, Terry can smoke anywhere in this shop," but it was too late. And Terry, and this is the brilliant part about him, was talking to two young punk kids outside, and they were looking at LPs in the window, and they just happened to say, he's an encyclopedia of music, as you well know, Roy, and he just happened to started talking about the LPs in the window, and then it suddenly came out that they actually had his single of "Laugh at Me," which that really cherished. So for him, out of a population of whatever Stockholm is, a couple of million people, for these kids to actually have this single from Belfast made his whole thing. So that shows he's not someone who's made big money out of everything, but his heart was there, and it meant more to him that these two kids in Stockholm had his single and also the Good Vibes label. Well, because as you know, I'm a person from the 60s. So therefore, even though that wasn't my period, I became aware of, on the television, the harp bar appearing and different things like that. And I've actually watched Terry's thing about the tribe as well. But I started to become more aware of it and saying, God, these kids have got courage to go out, make this music, and be in the city when it was very violent and dangerous to be out there. But their love of music, and it was very raw, were going out and doing it. And when you think of the people on that label, I bought the CD years after the event and played it regularly in my studio, like the Outcasts, Rudy, all those different groups, the Undertones. It doesn't seem to have dated to me, because good music never does. And I think that when you think of so many of those bands never really made the big time, and that's why I particularly like that track, "Big Time, You Ain't No Friend of Mine," because particularly I haven't made any big time. I've got a great CV, but financially I've made very little money out of what I do. And I think what's important, I hope Terry's shop keeps going, because you get these big bland giants coming in, and I've been round in his shop for years and watched people coming in and the time that's given to them, and he has old like mates drop in. Where else would you get that? If you go round to these bigger places, it's just in, buy your CD and out, and there's no history coming along with it. But as you know, John Peel said that the Undertones Teenage Kicks is probably his favourite record of all time. And Terry told me a bit that a lot of those songs like Laugh at Me and Made Himself were recorded under very primitive conditions. But yet, when you listen to the music, you wouldn't worry about that. There's just the energy. And as I was saying to you, the difference between maybe art that would be made in London to art that would be made here, I think that the music that these young people made at the time had a different edge to, say, bands like the Sex Pistols. Not it was probably underneath it dealing with an energy of living in a very difficult place. Well, I think there is a crossover between music and art in Belfast. In my case, anyway, that I can say it from a personal opinion, that Terry calls me like the punk painter of the scene, but what he really means is there's a raw energy in the work. But I do think what happened from that period is there's been a lot of good bands came on since then, and I think the music just changes and responds to the time. We're living probably in a slightly new, different area of internationalism in music, so I do think that some of the bands I've seen since that period tend to respond a wee bit to what's going on outside, rather than I think punk had its roots more in the city and the island. I think Terry's role in that environment would be that, uh, being from the same generation as me, he was able to. He, this is a great gift, spotting, talent spotting, if you wish, and he was able to see that there was this energy, and if it could be controlled and harnessed, the good that it would do. And it always, he's a great organizer and also very good, I think, good singer himself, even though he won't admit that. But I mean, I think that's part of what he was able to do. He was able to recognize something going on and nurture it